In this problem set, we're going to introduce multiplication of integers. And we're going to focus on understanding why it works, what the definition says, not just how to get the right answer, okay? Before we do that, let's review a little bit. Simplify this. Go ahead, hit the pause button and simplify this. Did you get 4x plus, or I should say 4y plus 3x? When you add the y's together using the commutative law, you get 4y. When you add the x's together using the commutative law, you get 3x. Very good. Okay, so we're going to introduce multiplication. When you multiply two integers together, let's first of all assume they're both positive. 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15, and that's also 5 plus 5 plus 5. These two things are equal, right? And that's how we define the multiplication. In fact, it turns out whenever you have a number times another number, that's called product form. One number times another. The first number tells you how many times the second number is added to itself. This is called additive form. So in this particular homework, you're just practicing going from one form to the other. But this shows why when you have a positive number times a positive number, it'll always be positive, right? Because you're adding a positive number to itself. That's like winning $5 over and over again, right? Or moving further and further to the right of the number line in the positive direction. Anyway, so what we're going to do here, well, first of all, here's the definition. So when you multiply integer times another one, it's a way to write repeated addition. The first integer tells you how many times the second one is being added to itself. Turns out, though, 3 times 5, isn't that the same thing as 5 times 3? They're both equal to 15, right? Okay, well, if you use the definition we just talked about, couldn't you also say that it's negative 3 added to itself 5 times? So you can do it either way. They both come out to 15, right? So really, the way to think of it is you can either say the first number tells you how many times the second number is added to itself, like we did here, or you could say the second number tells you how many times the first number is added to itself, like we have here. Either way. And what that says is that the commutative law works. The commutative law works for addition and multiplication. It turns out it doesn't work for the other two. It doesn't work for division and subtraction, as we'll see later. Alright, so what we're going to do here in this problem set is just practice going from one form to the other. Practice going from product form to additive form and vice versa. So this is product form. It's a number times another number. Remember, you can do it either way. You can either say the first number tells you how many times the second number is added to itself, or you can say the second number tells you how many times the first number is added to itself. This one, clearly, it would be better to say the first number tells you how many times the second is added to itself. In fact, you couldn't do it the other way. It doesn't make any sense if you did it the other way, does it? You can't say 4 is added to itself negative 2 times. However, this does show that when you have a positive number times a negative number, you're adding a negative number to itself over and over again. As we saw earlier, it's going to be more negative. It's like you're losing $2 over and over again, or you're moving 2 units further and further to the left of 0. You're becoming more negative, right? Positive times a negative will always be negative for that reason. How about this one? What about negative 3 times 4? Do you want to think of this as negative 3 added to itself 4 times? That's how I would do it. Or the other way doesn't make any sense. You couldn't say 4 added to itself negative 3 times. This is a case where it's better to say the second number tells you how many of the first number is added to itself over and over again. And this shows why a negative times a positive will always be a negative number, right? Negative times a positive will always be negative because you're adding a negative number to itself over and over again. So we showed positive times a negative will always be negative. Negative times a positive will also always be negative. How about this? 3y. Remember what 3y means? It means 3 times y. So if you were to write that in additive form, the only way, well, the easiest way to do it would be to just say you're adding y to itself 3 times. So it really does mean you have 3 y's that are being added together. How about this one? 100 times 2. This one you could do either way. Which way is easier? Would you rather see 100 added to itself 2 times or 2 added to itself 100 times? I'd rather see 100 added to itself twice. Now the other way you could do it, this is how I would suggest you do it though, if you do it the other way. If you were to write 2 added to itself 100 times, instead of writing them all out, you could say 2 plus dot 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 plus 2 and somehow indicate that you have 100 terms here. Or you could also say 100 times, that would be okay. Okay. How about 5 times 0? How would you write that in, that's product form, how would you write that in additive form? In additive form, it would be 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0. That tells you why anything times 0 is 0, right? Any number times 0 will always be 0 because you're adding 0 to itself over and over again. Okay, let's keep on going here. Again, we're going from product form to additive form and vice versa. And this one, I'm giving you the additive form. -5 plus -5 plus -5. How would you write that as a product? Well, the only way I would think would be you have you have 4 terms, right? -5 is added to itself 4 times, so that would be 4 times -5. How about 40x? What does that mean in terms of additive form? You're given the product form. Well, I would say x added to itself 40 times, and this is how you'd write it. X plus dot 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 plus x 40 terms or 40 times, either way. This one. How about 3 times the quantity x plus y? This is a product of 2 things. The first number is 3, the second number is this whole quantity x plus y. So the easiest way would just be x plus y plus x plus y plus x plus y. Perhaps technically you don't need those parentheses around there, but they're just more of a visual thing. Helps you see that you have something added to itself 3 times. AB, that's kind of awkward. AB, how would you write that in additive form? Either way, it's kind of tough. You could say it's B added to itself over and over again. How many times is B being added? A times, right? So you'd write it like this. Whoops, I'm over here now. How about this one? How would you write this in additive form, or I should say product form? This is additive form. Y is added to itself R times. Wouldn't that be R times Y or Y times R? That'd be okay too. All right, so this thing here, before I give you some to try, it's important that you don't get addition mixed up with multiplication. In fact, that's one of the most common errors when you're just like memorizing rules and things, is to get things mixed up. If you know why the rules work, you're less likely to do that. We talked about addition in terms of money and the number line, right? That's what you should always be thinking about why things work the way they do. We talked about this in terms of the number line as well. When you multiply 2 positive numbers, it's always positive, because when you write that in additive form, remember when you write that in additive form, you're adding positive numbers to itself. It's like adding money to itself. When you multiply a negative times a positive or a positive times a negative, you'll always get a negative. For example, up here we were talking about y. Positive times a negative is always negative, because when you write in additive form, you'll always be adding a negative to itself over and over again, which, as we know, becomes more negative. Don't get that confused with addition. When you add a positive and a negative, it depends on which is bigger. We talked about that earlier. Here's another piece of advice. Don't say a positive and a negative is negative. Be more clear. Is it a positive plus a negative or a positive times a negative? A positive times a negative is negative. A positive plus a negative depends. So don't be clear on that. That way you don't get confused. We also know when you add 2 negatives together, it becomes more negative. We talked about that. Why? Using the number line or money. Here's one we have not talked about, but it's important. We are going to talk about it. Your teacher's going to give you some reasons why this is true, but we're going to hold off on that for now. We don't do this very often, but this is one of the few times. When you multiply 2 negative numbers together, it turns out it's positive. We'll talk about why. But this is the one thing that you're going to have to keep straight for a while until we give you some reasons. There's a couple of reasons why this is true. But keep this straight. When you multiply 2 negatives, it's positive. When you add 2 negatives, it's more negative. Okay, the best way to learn this is just to practice. Okay, here we go. This looks like fun. Why don't you fill in this chart right here, and we'll go over it in just a minute. Go ahead, hit the pause button, fill out this chart, and we'll go over it. Okay, on this first one, you're given the product form as -4 times 3. How would you write an additive form? TV audience says -4 plus -4 plus -4. That'd be the only way to do it. How about this one? 4 times -20. How would you write that? And that's product form. How would you write an additive form? TV audience says -20 plus -20 plus -20 plus -20. How about this one? 3 times m. That would just be m plus m plus m, right? How about this one? 3 plus 3 plus dot 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 plus 3 50 times. How would you write that in product form? Computer says 50 times 3, right? Good. 100 times 3 would have to be, well, there's 2 ways to do that one, but the easiest way would be 100 plus 100 plus 100. How about 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0? That would be 5 times 0. How would you write 50y as an additive form? I'd probably go y plus y plus y. I'd add it up and say 50 of them. Y plus dot 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 plus y 50 terms. How would you write 2ab? Or I should say 2 times the quantity a plus b. That would be a plus b plus a plus b. How would you write ab? That looks familiar. Where have I seen that before? You could go b plus dot 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 plus b a terms, or you could do the other way around and say a plus dot 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 plus a b terms. Last one. How would you write x plus dot 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 plus x at y times? Either xy or yx. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed that little game there. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.